It's time for our Allied Cooperative Program, and I've got Tom Hoffman. He's agronomy sales lead out of Marshfield. And when I say Marshfield, there is quite a difference in the planting progress out there, and the weather has had a lot to do with it. What are you seeing in certain places?
Yeah, I mean, there is really quite a contrast within our trade area and the listening area. As we get into the north central part of the state, we really have, there's some heavier soils in the first place, but nonetheless, planting progress is behind. We might be 50-60% planted with corn, soybeans. When we take farther south and obviously in the western part of the state, I think planting progress isn't too bad. There's 80+%, 90% planted of corn, soybeans, and some of the crop in some of those areas is doing very, very well. And by contrast, some of this heavier soil types in the Marshfield area, really we've got a long ways to go, and there's water in fields, and I don't know how soon that's going to happen. So it's quite a challenge for the producers. And with that being said, where there is dairy and livestock, there is hay that needs to be made, and the hay needs to be cut, and obviously some fields are soft, and rain in the forecast every other day doesn't help that. So that's a challenge in itself as well.
We've just been assuming that those seeds will be able to get in the ground, but not necessarily. Should a farmer start looking at some other options for those fields just to get a crop?
Yeah, I think it depends upon the producer's situation. I think there's certainly some people with livestock that, for corn silage, certainly there's still plenty of window of opportunity, and for tonnage and good quality feed, corn silage is still a wonderful feed product, and we can plant that for quite some time here and maximize their tonnage. But certainly some other people that don't have livestock and use for silage or high moisture corn, I mean, then they need to start thinking of something else, or maybe not, depending on the situation, how soon they get in, maybe they won't be able to plant some. Hopefully they may have some crop insurance, but this is that time of the year, and maybe some have already had that, to have some conversation with their crop insurance agents to see what their options may be. But no two situations are the same. But nonetheless, I think there is some of this ground here that it's going to be a little while before there's corn, and as we miss a month of growing season and the amount of growing degree days, corn obviously, it runs out of time, so we have to start thinking of something else. And certainly the window closed on soybeans if we get very far into June here as well.
We did start this conversation about the challenges of getting those seeds in the ground, but there are seeds that did get into the ground. And what time of the growing season are we at? Are we looking at walking in those fields and checking for bugs and weeds, or what's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, it is, we're at a time where we need to be watching those fields very, very closely for weeds, where we've had good moisture. I mean, we've had plenty of moisture for the weed seeds to germinate, and obviously we've had enough heat to keep things moving along. Certainly where there isn't any herbicide down, or where they've had a hard time, the weeds don't stop. And certainly if there's the window gets narrow to get spray on to control the weeds. So it's a challenge to do that. So certainly be persistent and keep at it. Insects are another thing. I mean, certainly there's been many parts alfalfa weevil, and alfalfa we don't always get every year with it, but that's certainly been a very, very big deal. I think we should start to be seeing some cutworms in some cases. As we all know, the winter was quite mild and spring started early. The hatch for some insects is going to happen early, and obviously as for some of those, if we've had some southerly winds. So to stay persistent on the pest area will be, quite important to protect the crop that you've got.
And as those crops are growing out there, it is time to get in there and do some tissue sampling, which is something that I find very interesting. What's the reason to do that?
Yeah, so tissue sampling helps us determine how well we have been applying fertilizer, but also gives us an opportunity to add some nutrients, in a lot of cases micronutrients, but it can be the macronutrients as well, for something that has been missed, or maybe there wasn't quite enough, or there were just some additional needs. So where the crop is progressing well, and we have some corn at V4, 5, we're stretching into that, and we start to get some of those first trifoliates of soybeans it's a good time to do the tissue analysis to let us know, can we be, should we be adding something more for, for the micronutrient. Certainly with these crops some of these crops planted early and progressing well, you really like to keep them going in the right direction. Some of these have a lot of very, very good potential, so we don't want to skip out on a limiting factor like a micronutrient where we have the opportunity to correct that and make the crop, continue to progress well.
There's still some time to pull on those boots and get out in those fields with Tom Hoffman, agronomy sales lead out of the Marshfield office. And that's our Allied Cooperative program for this Wednesday morning. I'm Jill Welke.